Kabane-kun is a typical farm boy who works at a nearby inn tending to the cattle and plowing the fields without getting any attention from his fellow farm kids. But when an occult detective shows up at his inn to look into a strange incident that occurred in the past, his life takes an unexpected turn. In the opening scene, a group of boys are seen walking back from school with their friend and son of the innkeeper, Yataro. As they pass by the inn, the boys make jest with Yataro and Dorotabo, the weird boy always plowing the fields near the inn, before running off to their homes. Detective Inugami Kohachi, who is traveling in the direction of the inn, experiences a flat tire in the middle of nowhere. Fortunately, the innkeeper was only now getting back from her excursion. She pulls over next to him and picks him up. On her way to the inn, she discusses the awful things happening to her. Her narrative was that some strange monster was eating out the organs of her animals, leaving their corpses in the most dreadful condition imaginable. She is given the reassurance by Inugami that he will solve the problem quickly. When the group arrives at the inn, Inugami checks into his room. After putting his belongings inside, he wanders around the fields and observes Dorotabo toiling away. He attempts to converse with him, but Dorotabo doesn't pay him much attention. Inugami ignores him and heads to the inn's hot spring to relax and detoxify the stress in his body. As Yataro arrives, he greets their visitor, offers to wash his back for him, and introduces himself. In doing so, Yataro starts chatting nonstop with Inugami, who only looks to be taking pleasure in the attention. When Inugami inquires about Dorotabo, Yataro criticizes him. Inugami abandons his bath after becoming intrigued by this strange man. Then, he returns home that evening and asks to visit Dorotabo instead. The next morning, the innkeeper insists on giving Doro a full bath before taking him to see Inugami. Doro finally gets to see Inugami after washing himself up. He prepares to leave after serving him breakfast. However, Inugami pulls him back and demands more information about what's really going on with the farm's livestock. Doro informs him about the 6 animals killed in the attack. His account backs up the innkeeper's. The monster consumes the organs of the animals before leaving the horrifying body for the farmers to dispose of before the full moon. Inugami understands they only have 5 days till the next full moon and thanks him for his assistance. After the innkeeper returns from her grocery run, she finds Inugami and Doro cleaning up gutters. Yataro and his buddies also pass by and are surprised to find such a cool individual having fun with Doro of all persons. However, Inugami keeps spending more time with Doro for a few more days. Doro also seemed to be enjoying his time with Inugami. Doro informs Inugami about the lifestone on his neck one day when they are working in the field. Inugami investigates and realizes Doro is a unique youngster who never had his parents' love. He lights a cigarette and pledges to assist Doro in finding his parents. It's a full moon that night, so Doro goes outdoors to wait for Inugami. Yataro, who is envious of Doro's attention from Inugami, confronts him and yanks his lifestone from his neck. Doro loses his cool and punches Yataro. Yataro stands up and discovers Doro's face is already horrible and monster-like. Doro moves closer to unaliving Yataro. Nevertheless, Yataro escapes his hands and abandons the lifestone. Doro takes the lifestone and transforms back into a normal human. Inugami appears a few minutes later and explains his actual identity to him. Doro, like Inugami, appears to be a Kemono or ghoul. The only difference now is that Doro possesses demon and human-like traits since he's a hybrid from both a ghoul and a human. His lifestone prevents him from attacking people impulsively. Doro now understands all his life is about. Just then, he remembers that Yataro was still outside and not protected. Yataro dashes towards the inn, wondering what kind of creature Doro could be. Before he can get in, he is ambushed by the 2 ghouls who are devouring the livestock. Fortunately for him, Inugami and Doro arrive just in time to murder them. Doro pulls the head of a larger ghoul off its shoulders as it assaults them. With the monsters gone, Inugami and Doro return to the inn with an unconscious Yataro. Doro discovers on the way that he can't truly stay there any longer. Yataro will no doubt tell the innkeeper about Doro's true form, and that's bad news for anybody. Inugami thinks long and hard about the situation and comes to a conclusion. Since he was called upon to kill Doro, he decides to go forward with it knowing full well Doro wouldn't die completely. Doro accepts his fate and Inugami kills him. He gets permission to dispose of his body and takes him away from the inn. Doro comes back to life in Inugami's car and is very surprised to be alive. Inugami explains to him ghouls don't die that easily and welcomes him to Tokyo. Inugami takes Doro back to his house and introduces him to his 2 teenage subordinates, Shiki and Akira. Doro introduces himself to Akira and Shiki by his real name, Kabane. After the necessary introductions, Inugami asks Kabane to work with him. Akira notices the weird smell coming off Kabane and asks her master why he smells that way. Inugami tells her Kabane is an immortal hybrid of a demon and a human, just like Shiki. Shiki gets the wrong vibe from Kabane and keeps talking down on him. He retires to his room for the night a while later, leaving Akira and the remaining guys in the living room. Kabane mistakes Akira for a girl and compliments his beauty. This rubs Akira the wrong way and he runs away to his room dejected and sad. Later in the night, Shiki eats pizza for dinner in front of Kabane. He lets Kabane know he doesn't like him one single bit. Still, Kabane refuses to react to his comments. He gives Kabane some pizza to eat for the first time and notices his reaction. Kabane, after eating the pizza slice, compliments the food and leaves Shiki smiling at him for the first time since they met. Shiki and Akira talk about Kabane before sleeping. While Akira is supportive of Kabane, Shiki suggests they bully him. The duo talk for a little while and Akira goes to sleep. Shiki gets up in the middle of the night and roams the house stalking Kabane. He lays some of his deadly silk webs in the corridor and waits for someone to enter them. Kabane trips on one of Shiki's silk webs and gets stuck. Shiki approaches him and tries to bully him about his parents. Kabane ignores him and forces his way through the silk, injuring himself in the process. The following day, Kabane follows Inugami and the teens to a crime scene. On getting into the affected house, they find out that a mother and her kid are trapped in a room with a swarm of Sanshitsu 3 corpse bugs. These harmless little critters become harmful when someone of the right blood type is nearby. Inugami thinks about turning his body to steel and then infiltrating the bug house so he doesn't get eaten. However, it's too risky as it'll take a longer time to get his entire body transformed to steel. Shiki decides to shoot his sticky silk threads into the room and have the bugs attach themselves to them so they can be trapped. This doesn't work as the bugs shake themselves off the threads. As they wonder what to do, Kabane decides to get into the room himself and take the bugs out himself. Since immortal ghouls like himself don't feel any pain, he should be fine. Kabane gets into the room and turns on the light bulb in the room, thereby banishing the bugs from the room. Inugami congratulates Kabane for helping take out the bugs with the victims' lives intact. Later in the day, the elder brother of the house thanks Inugami and his team for helping him save his mother. He then goes on to talk about his family's sob story, not leaving out how poor they are and how they have to steal things sometimes to survive. Inugami tells the boy to stay strong and work hard to keep his family up and running so he can be well. After the boy leaves, Inugami officially welcomes Kabane to the team and even offers to pay him while he searches for his parents. At home, Shiki finally has a nice conversation about his family with Kabane. Apparently, Shiki's mother was a spider woman who mated with a human and gave birth to the hybrid, Shiki. Kabane tells him that although they're abandoned, he still has a feeling their parents are alive somewhere just waiting for their return. Shiki gets grumpy again but listens to Kabane's words this time. When they're done, he takes Kabane to his room to rest. In the meantime, Inugami receives a call from a lady and explains some things about Kabane and his life stone to her. The next day, Inugami instructs the youths to take Kabane to visit Inari, the kitsune Kemono, and the police department superintendent. Shiki is irritated because he despises Inari's guts. Akira, on the other hand, becomes agitated and informs Kabane of all the amazing sights they could see on their route to the police station. Before they leave, Inugami bestows a good luck charm to Kabane. Inari arrives at the police station and demonstrates her enticing beauty to the men present. She becomes conceited as the males fall head over heels for her. When the youngsters arrive at the Shinjuku police station, they approach the receptionist and request a meeting with Inari. The receptionist tries to shoo them away, but a lady named Kon comes downstairs and simply takes Kabane to the superintendent, Inari's meeting room. As Inari arrives, she greets Kabane and introduces herself and Kon before getting down to business. She talks briefly about Inugami and inquires about Kabane's life stone. Kabane informs her he has his life stone with him and she asks to look at it. Kabane hands it to her and she takes it. Inari is overjoyed to be holding the life stone. Then she goes on to detail her relationship with Inugami, noting how contentious they both were with each other. She tells Kabane that if she can mass-produce the life stone on his neck, the Kemonos will no longer need to rely on human energy. She orders Kon to sever Kabane's head, which she accomplishes practically instantly. She transports his skull and places it in a briefcase, then instructs Kon to pick up the hefty briefcase and deliver it to her office. Before leaving, Inari instructs Kon to take care of Shiki and Akira before they become aware of what is going on. Kon praises her for her kindness and takes up the briefcase. She transforms into Kabane and goes downstairs to deceive Akira and Shiki into letting down their guard for an easy kill. Unfortunately, this does not work because the kids see her disguise and identify her as a kitsune. Kon, realizing she's been altered, reverts to her previous form and sets fire to the entire lobby in order to murder the children. Shiki and Akira flee for their lives as Kon continues to unleash fireballs at them with no regard for their safety. Shiki manages to rip Kon's briefcase from his grasp. He opens it and is surprised to see Kabane's head inside. Akira passes out, leaving Shiki alone to deal with the enraged Kon. Shiki carries Kabane's head, knocks out Akira, and hides them away from Kon. Kabane thanks him for his assistance and devises a plan to eliminate Kon entirely. He orders Shiki to hurl his head towards Kon in order to land a bite powerful enough to put her out. Shiki grudgingly tosses Kabane's head, and the plot is successful. With Kon gone, everything returns to normal and the fires are extinguished. Kabane creates a new body from his thoughts and puts on clothes. Shiki gives Kabane a fist bump in celebration of their victory over Kon. They then retrieve Akira and leave the station, where Inugami is waiting for them. Meanwhile, Inari, who is on her way home, discovers that the lifestone Kabane handed her was a dud that Inugami had earlier given him. Inugami phones her and brags about once again outwitting her. Inari becomes so enraged that she murders her Uber driver. In a different neighborhood in town, Inugami plans to throw a welcome party for Kabane in order to officially welcome him to the team. Shiki and Akira became really thrilled about the celebration and considered it the greatest meal selection. Kon can be seen pacing relentlessly in an alleyway as she continues her search for Kabane and delivers his head to her master, Inari. Following the party, Inugami leads the children to the Kemono signpost, which attracts Kemonos from all across town in search of missions. Kon discovers them and passes out as they investigate the light. Inugami brings her home and feeds her pizza. Kon still wants to take Kabane's head right there, but Inugami manages to restrain her. Someone else enters the pub as they discuss what to do with Kon, drawn there by the lights outside. As Inugami attends to the drunk customer, Kabane and the others discuss Inugami's history with the bar. As they discuss, they hear the customer rambling about a certain woman he hasn't met before but loves with all his heart. Inugami and the others try to get more information about this woman, but the customer tells them he doesn't know anything about her. Shiki and Akira talk a little bit about love. Kabane gets confused and asks Inugami what love truly means. Inugami freezes on the spot and gives a rather vague answer. He then assigns the mission to Kabane and the other 3 kids with him. The customer, later identified as Yaruno, sees a rat creeping around the bar. Almost immediately, he turns into a feline and jumps at the rat to capture it. After capturing it, he puts it in his bag filled with other dead rats and licks himself like a cat. Akira gets creeped out and rushes to clean himself. Inugami follows him to the restroom and reassigns him to another job in his office so he doesn't get too irritated on this one. Akira thanks him and allows the others to go. Shiki, Kon, and Kabane, alongside the customer, get to an adult shop to find Yaruno's crush. After her shift ends, she still doesn't show up. Shiki and his peers, however, see a suspicious-looking cat walking out of one of the showrooms. They all follow the cat and expose it in an alleyway. The cat materializes into a beautiful woman and introduces herself as Mao. She gets really sassy and smug after finding her seduction spell working on Yaruno. Kon jumps on Mao's head and catches her by surprise. She presents the female cat to Yaruno for his taking. Yaruno gets very emotional and confesses his feelings for Mao-chan. After hearing all he had to say, Mao gets very flustered and stares at Yaruno with surprise in her eyes. Later that night, Shiki and the others get back home thinking about how Mao would treat their customer after hearing all he had to say. When they get home, Inugami gives Kon a fake head resembling that of Kabane and sends her back to Inari, her master. The next day, Inugami receives news that the cat, Mao, and Yaruno actually got together. Now that's rather impressive or weird. Anyways, Shiki gets tired of thinking too hard about things. Akira, on the other hand, seems very impressed at Kabane's interference in the matter. She decides to become Kabane's apprentice and lets Inugami know about it in their next meeting. Inugami accepts his decision and gives them another job. This time, they're investigating a case of unnatural deaths of the workers in the river flowing under Shibuya sewers. Akira gets freaked out hearing the sound of death and takes a break. While he takes a bath, Inugami fills Kabane in on some information about the river. Akira finishes his bath and follows Kabane to the sewer tunnels. Akira keeps freaking out at every turn they take as they find creepy creatures all around them. Kabane takes care of the creatures and leads Akira further into the sewers, bearing his talkative nature as they search for clues. Kabane asks Akira if he has powers he could show him. Akira tells him he can freeze water at the surface. Kabane asks him to try showcasing his powers to him. As he's about to do so, a slimy wild animal attacks him. Lucky for them, a tanuki saves them from the animals and hands them a vial of blood and a letter from Inugami. They open the letter and find out the slimy animals that attacked them earlier are the frog Kemono that grew aberrant after eating humans. Now equipped with more information, Kabane and Akira pour the blood into the river beneath them and wait for the monsters to show. Soon, the frog Kemono reacts to the blood in the water and attacks Kabane and Akira. The tanuki there helps fight some of the frogs. However, Akira gets too scared and cowers in a corner. With a little more motivation, he activates his power and freezes the frog Kemono. The tanuki slips out of their sight to talk to the elder frog who apologizes for his frog's uncanny behaviors towards his people. It's then revealed that the tanuki is Inugami in his real Kemono state. He accepts the frog's apology and heads back to his people who seem to be busy taking pictures. It's just another ordinary day in Tokyo, with Inugami and his team cleaning the house thoroughly. Kabane discovers the hidden door behind the hallway that Inugami advised him not to open. He approaches too close to the door and is lured in for several hours. When Inugami and the others discover he's gone missing, they conduct a brief search and discover him in the room behind the prohibited door. They find Kabane serving the venerable vampire Kemono, Mihai. Mihai greets the children and appoints Kabane as his new slave. Inugami returns the children to the living room and informs them about Mihai's past. Mihai appears to be a vampire who accumulated too much information in his lifetime and became dissatisfied with his existence. As a result, he sought solitude behind a computer. Inugami took him in as part of a mutual arrangement. Inugami allows Mihai to stay in the house and feeds him while he works on the technology. Shiki still believes it is unethical to enslave Kabane against his will after hearing all of this. Later that day, he joins forces with Akira to confront Mihai about his plan to keep Kabane as a slave. Mihai suggests they settle their differences the old-fashioned way. He challenges Shiki to a game of arm wrestling. Shiki will release Kabane if he wins. If not, he gets to keep him. Shiki arm wrestles Mihai multiple times, but each time she is vanquished. Kabane decides to gamble. He wrestles him with all his strength but still loses to the vampire. Kabane takes the streets after the game to get some food for the family. He sits on an outdoor bench on his walk back, contemplating progress. Kon then plummets from a tree over Kabane. Kon shares with Kabane her heartbreaking story about being abandoned by Inari. Kabane challenges her to a fight and eventually defeats her. Kon is devastated by her failure and sobs like a baby. Kabane picks her up and pets her. Meanwhile, Mihai leaves his room to meet with Inugami. Kabane managed to break Mihai's hands despite winning the match. Thus, with only a week or so till it heals, he requests to assist with Inugami's task. Kabane wakes Kon up a few hours later, still on the bench, and asks her whether she wants to stay with Inugami. Kon warns him that as a kitsune, she cannot coexist with a tanuki like Inugami. Kabane recalls that he needs to deliver meals to the others, so he gets up and exits, promising to return to Kon when he's finished. Shiki, Akira, and Kabane arrive home to find Mihai working on Inugami's computer. They ask about Inugami's location, but Mihai responds that he is attending to something else. Before sending the youngsters on their next mission, Mihai brings them to a hot chamber to train. This time, Shiki and his colleagues are to infiltrate Bugbite Electronic, a dubious corporation whose higher-ups have been discreetly killing their employees and passing the deaths off as suicides. Shiki uses his spider abilities to get access to the company. He makes use of his new talent and merges in with his surroundings. He discovers a small remote-controlled toy car belonging to Mihai. During the mission, he will be accompanied by a toy automobile. Shiki discovers a room crowded with dozens of exhausted people working tirelessly while Akira and Kabane wait outside the company. One of them panics and runs down the corridor to meet the manager, Kaga. She sympathizes with him and leads him to a chamber where she exposes him to another Kemono, with a physique resembling that of a mosquito. Shiki follows them and observes the mosquito Kemono sucking a chunk of the worker's brain before leaving him half dead to continue working. Mihai approaches Inugami and inquires about the mosquito Kemono. Inugami, who is trapped inside Mihai's door, informs him that the mosquito Kemono feeds on organs, blood, or brains. Nevertheless, because the corporation has a bad reputation for killing its employees, it decided to consume half their brains in order to keep them alive. Mihai becomes bored and tries to shake things up a bit. He exposes Shiki by making noises in the corridor with his toy vehicle. The girls investigate the source of the commotion. One of them detects something off but misleads the others, only to return to Shiki and devour his brains. Shiki freezes as she sees the mosquito Kemono. Fortunately for him, Mihai stuns the girl with his toy vehicle till she collapses. Even after Mihai shocked the mosquito girl in front of him, Shiki still freezes up. Turns out he has PTSD from a traumatic event during his childhood that he couldn't remember. Meanwhile, Mihai hurries Kabane and Akira to find a way into the building and get to Shiki while there's still time. They find an entrance in the building's garage, but one of the Mosquito sisters blocks their way forward. In the meantime, Mihai, in his own way, speaks some words of encouragement to Shiki, telling him to get the hell up if he's going to survive. Still, Shiki remains frozen in place. Kabane and Akira take care of the sister mosquito blocking earlier, and proceed further into the building. They also try their best to encourage Shiki to fight on. Mihai says more hurtful words and gives Shiki all the motivation he needs to fight back the mosquito sister who already woke up from the shock. Shiki devises a plan and completely merges it into the walls and ceiling. He spreads his scent everywhere in the room and lures the mosquito Kemono to amplify her vision. Once she does, she searches the entire room for Shiki but doesn't find him. When she's already deep into his trap, Shiki shows his face and entraps the mosquito lady in his web. When she's fully covered in webs, Shiki knocks her out and lays down to rest a little. Kabane and Akira join her with the other mosquito sister. Shiki ties her up in his web alongside her sister and keeps talking about their next lead. As they contemplate their next move, the elder sister, Aka manager Kaga, approaches them. She brings out her own suckers and sucks the brains out of her sister's heads. She then metamorphosizes into a full mosquito Kemono and attacks the teens in front of her. Kabane goes for her vitals first, but the mosquito is just too strong. She punctures his chest and holds him up. Shiki tries to save his friend but ends up getting blown away by the mosquito's legs. The same thing happens with Akira as he's knocked out in seconds. Kabane refuses to give up as he keeps struggling to get out of the mosquito's grasp. Mihai notices this happening, so he tells Kanabe to try using his Kemono strength to overpower the mosquito. Kanabe reaches into his inner self and rips Kaga's hands out of her body after accessing his Kemono strength. Now that Kaga is incapacitated, Kabane looks to remove her legs so she remains immobilized for a while. However, Inugami cuts in on the radio feed and tells him to leave the rest to Inari's team. Just as Kabane is about to protest Inugami's decision, a blonde dude who works for Inari and is named Nobamaru walks by to clean things up. He introduces himself and gets right to burning the mosquito bodies to a crisp. In his words, he is getting rid of evidence. Once he's done, Nobamaru tells him to get right home and cater to his friends. Kabane thanks him for his help and starts waking his friend up. Before he goes, however, Nobamaru lets him in on a little secret. From the looks of things, Inari still hasn't given up on her search for Kabane's lifestone. Nobamaru was sent there to investigate his lifestone. Kabane thanks him and asks him why he would betray his master like that. Turns out Nobamaru hates Inari's guts. On getting home, Mihai tells them he had to give them such a tough mission, unlike Inugami's missions, so they'll grow. Inugami himself admits he's impressed by the way they handled the mission. Mihai retraces his steps to his hidden room and tells Inugami to expect him outside more often. By midnight, Kabane wakes up and listens to his colleagues' hearts. The next day, Kabane keeps following Shiki all around the house. After complaining, Kabane stops. He then remembers Khan, who was waiting for him by the bench from the previous day. Kabane rushes to the same bench and meets Khan there waiting for him. He tells her the truth, he forgot about their appointment and apologizes to her. Khan had caught some Khan fish for both of them to eat, but since he was a no-show they got spoiled. In the final scene, Shiki musters up enough courage to tell Inugami about his family. Inugami brings the kids to Shiki's hometown to see his parents in a few days. Kabane and Akira are pleased for Shiki, who is finally ready to meet his family, but Shiki cringes at the sincere remarks his two colleagues made about his family. Akira inquires as to whether they will be meeting his cool uncle in town. Shiki assures her that there is a chance they will. After a long journey, Inugami and the kids arrive in Shiki's hometown. Akira gets distracted by the wonderful items for sale at the stalls around them. Inugami, on the other hand, sends them off to find an inn where they can stay. The kids visit a local bookstore and read intriguing stories. Kabane discovers a storybook and reads the incredible story of the poor nice man who became wealthy through his hospitality. Shiki, who is curiously realistic, informs them it's an unrealistic story. He notices a young girl staring at him from the entryway and returns her gaze. At that point, Inugami appears, accompanied by Shiki's uncle, Tademori. Tademori reunites with his nephew and transports everything to the river. There, he reveals himself as a folklorist and tells them the truth about Shiki's mother. Tademori tells Shiki he knows his mother is a Kemono. As for the rest of the news, Tademori asks for some privacy from even us the viewers, and reveals the rest of the truth only to Shiki. Shiki returns to his tribe and informs them that both of his parents have died. Shiki, on the other hand, maintains a real face and forces himself to appear normal, rather than experiencing grief and allowing tears to flow. Inugami inquires about Tademori and goes over to join him while the youngsters arrive at the inn. Nabamaru joins the boys in the inn's baths, naked and in kimono mode. Nabamaru, a kitsune kimono, advises them to explore the town's natural beauties after bathing. Everyone heads to the river later that night to watch the gorgeous fireflies. Nabamaru apologizes for intruding on their private matters and congratulates Kabane for the strangest of reasons. Kabane ignores him and approaches Shiki, who is staring at a large tree. He looks at the tree intently and recognizes a trail he used to use when he was younger. He retraced his tracks and dashed to the path's conclusion, where he discovered the house that had horrified him several years before. Shiki walks up to the house in the dark and unlocks the door. It was then that he remembered his horror. That was apparently the house where he discovered his mother while she was being devoured alive by the monster that killed her. While he lies down, terrified, Nabamaru and Kabane approach him and inform him that the healing silk is causing a problem in the Kemono community. Inari had recognized this and banned someone named Tademaru, who was only interested in profiting from the healing silk's properties. Meanwhile, Inugami pays a visit to Tademaru to speak with him. Shiki suddenly recalls who hit him on the head after learning about his mother's awful occurrence. Tademaru, it turns out, murdered Shiki's mother, who was a natural maker of the healing silk. Tademaru wanted to grab all the silk for himself due to his greed, so he took her out. Shiki decides to make his uncle pay for his actions. Kabane and Nabamaru promise to assist him in taking such a disgusting individual. Inugami takes Tademaru on a trip through the forest to explain what happened back then and how he learned about the gold web treasures. Tademaru coerced Shiki's mother, Kumi, into undergoing a series of harsh procedures in order to artificially generate the golden silk after Shiki's father died. Tragically, Kumi died after some tests, and Shiki was there to witness it. Tademaru claims he had no regrets and was solely concerned with creating the silk and becoming the most wonderful man on the planet. Inugami had already gathered all of the information he required, so he summons Shiki from his hiding place to render judgment. Shiki takes his time punishing his uncle. Now that he's been caught, Tademaru begs Shiki to spare his life. Unfortunately, it's too late. Shiki makes sure to tighten the silk around his uncle's neck more and forbids him from justifying his horrendous act. Tademaru begs Inugami for mercy, but Inugami leaves things in Shiki's hands. Akira finally finds them after she is abandoned by the group somewhere else. While she whines and complains about being left behind, a monster Kemono attacks her. Inugami shoots the head off and engages in a fight with it. The thing bites his hand and infuses it with its venom. Inugami's arm gets paralyzed by the venom and more of the monsters appear. Tademaru lets off a smug look on his face and tells Shiki that the monsters are his siblings. He confesses that the weird chimera monsters were born from the experiments he conducted on his mother back in the day. Shiki cannot believe the atrocities before his face. He breaks down and loses his will to fight Tademaru. Nabamaru notices this and asks Kabane what he plans to do about the matter. Kabane, who was already seething with rage, accesses his inner power and asks Shiki what he would like to do. A helpless Shiki only asks Kabane to help him out. Kabane gets the memo and prepares for a big fight. Inugami and Akira are cornered. To prevent the poison from spreading, Inugami asks Akira to freeze his infected arm for him. Akira freaks out, but the young lady staring at Shiki back then at the bookstore arrives and offers to help them. Elsewhere, Kabane keeps bashing the heads of the Shiki's supposed siblings. Tademaru asks how he can confidently kill Shiki's siblings without a care in the world. Kabane tells him he would keep taking out the monsters if it meant killing Tademaru. Tademaru summons the biggest sibling, Shibai, and sends him toward Kabane. Kabane gets really serious and removes his shirt to allow for more room in the fight. Kabane jumps up and smashes Shibai's face to the ground. The young girl takes Inugami to a detoxifying spring to get his hand healed up. Inugami dips his infected arm in the water and heals it. The girl begs him not to kill Tademaru yet because she has something to ask him. Kabane, however, finishes all the monsters protecting Tademaru. He picks Tademaru up and leaves his punishment in the hands of Shiki himself. Shiki gets up and thanks his friend for helping him with his dirty business. He becomes the big man and refuses to kill his uncle. Just then, the young girl, Aya, and Inugami arrive and beg Shiki to spare Tademaru. Tademaru gets very worked up and scolds Aya for coming to the forest. Aya shushes him and asks him where he hid the cocoon she made. Tademaru smiles and uses his knowledge of the cocoon's location as a bargaining chip to stay alive. Shiki begins to wonder who Aya truly is and what she means to his uncle. He recalls a moment he had with his uncle when he was drunk years ago. Tademaru is a person who's too concerned about leaving something of value behind. This means Aya couldn't possibly be his daughter. Still, Shiki wonders who she could be. Aya refuses to give out her true identity as she fears that others will reject her. Inugami steps in and tells her not to worry, that he's been tracking Tademaru for a while now and probably knows a thing or two about the cocoon's location. He takes out his phone and calls Mihai. After he picks up, Inugami tells Mihai to check Tademaru's database to see whether or not he has been hiding something for the past years. Right in front of everyone, Mihai checks through the database and finds out about a secret place he usually goes to on occasion, a spring in the mountains of Kishigo. Aya suddenly remembers the spring when Inugami got his hand healed and rushed there to search for her cocoon. Shiki follows her and helps her dive into the spring to search for his mother's flowers in the cocoon itself. At the bottom of the spring, he finds his mother's body lying there untouched. One of the siblings Tademaru placed there to guard the body attacks Shiki, but he kills it before it gets to him. Shiki takes out the sibling and resurfaces. He asks Aya for the truth. Is his mom still alive? Aya cries and tells him yes. Aya then confesses to being the golden webbing offspring. Inugami and the others join them. Tademaru tells them he was just planning to use Kumi's body to mass produce the golden webbing. Shiki knocks him out and carries his mother and Aya to Inugami's car. On getting there, they find out Tademaru slipped away from their hands. Inugami tells them not to worry about him and get in the car so they can get to Tokyo quickly. At that moment, Tademaru drags himself to a tree and promises to start over. This time, Nobamaru catches up to him and incinerates him. Inugami takes Shiki's mother to a clinic he knows and asks for the clinic owner, Ohana. Ohana welcomes Kumi and examines her. She finds nothing wrong with Kumi and informs everyone that she needs to relax. Akira inquires of Ohana about her kimono status, but Inugami informs him that Ohana is a human veterinarian who inadvertently discovered kimonos and began treating them. Ohana leads the others outside to show them her bathhouse, leaving Shiki alone with his mother. Shiki spends the night with his mother. Late Aya enters Kumi's room. She's hesitant to knock since she feels incapable of calling Kumi her mother, despite the fact that she's a direct descendant of her. Tademaru, who forced her to live in a basement chamber her entire life, treated her horribly. Shiki observes Aya near the door and invites her to come see her mother. Aya treads gently and inquires of Shiki whether he truly despises her. Shiki informs her that his mother is alive due to her cocoon, and that he literally owes her his thanks for keeping his mother alive for him. Aya cries and asks if she could call them her family. Shiki freezes up out of cringe. At that moment, Kumi wakes up in the cocoon web. A week later, the investigative team had shrunk to Inugami, Akira, and Kabane as Shiki decided to stay behind and assist his mother in regaining her full vigor. Akira is taken aback by the revelation, but she has no choice but to let him do his thing. Inugami assigns chores to Kabane and Akira after breakfast one morning. Shiki appears at that precise moment to inform them that he has returned from his assignment. Aya is also given a complete makeover. She introduces herself and continues to inform Inugami that she is opening her own kemonopathy clinic where she will treat kimonos with the power of her silk. Inugami gets right to work and assists her in developing a strategy. Shiki tried his very best to stop his sister from doing such a thing, but things were moving too fast for his pace. Aya comes to Kabane and asks him out on the spot after receiving her business plan. Aya had apparently fallen for Kabane following their great confrontation with Tademaru's men. Before Kabane can respond, Kon appears and challenges her to a battle. She sighs at the pink-haired shorty nearby and declares war on him. Later, Inugami shows the youngsters a news broadcast about an invisible kimono ripping the faces off of women on the street. Akira faints as usual, and Inugami informs the children that they must explore the situation. Aya soon decides to accompany Kabane to the location. Kon becomes envious and joins in on the fun. When Kon arrives, he jumps the gun and tries to impress Kabane. Yet, it appeared that circumstances were working against her. She becomes irritated and wonders why her chest is squishy. She then hears a voice elsewhere but can't place it. Something invisible grabs Aya's hair and lifts her into the air. Kabane punches directly in front of him, knocking Aya out. Soon after, Kemono appears and explains why she's been shredding people's faces. According to her explanation, she wants to apply a gorgeous face to herself so she can ask the handsome boy by the store out. Kabane becomes perplexed and inquires as to why. She then tells them she grabbed Aya by the hair because Kon seemed upset since Aya was clutching Kabane's hand. Kon reacts inappropriately at this point, attempting to bite Aya. Kabane shields Aya while Kon retreats. Kabane and Aya return home that evening after resolving the problem. Aya used her cocoon powers to transform the faceless kimono into a human. She can now walk around and stop attacking people. Kabane arrives at Khan's tree after reporting the mission and finds her crying her eyes out. So Khan had grown accustomed to Kabane's warm embrace and was now envious of Aya's status as Kabane's favorite. Kabane pinches her cheeks and asks if she's okay. Khan suddenly stops crying and feels much better. She expresses her desire to be Kabane's number one and inquires whether he already knows who that is. Kabane admits that he doesn't know yet. She makes him promise to tell her when he finds out. Inugami then takes Kumi to pay her respects to her late husband. She is grateful to Inugami for looking after her children. Inugami simply advises her to make time to reconnect with her children. Khan pays a visit to Kabane and notices Aya crowding around him. She gets into a fight with Aya over Kabane. Akira intervenes and instructs Kabane to pick one of the girls to date. Kabane tells them that if he has to choose someone he loves, it will be Inugami. The room falls silent with shock. According to history, Akira is a male Yuki Ono born, alongside his twin brother, Yui, in the snowy mountains where their clan lives. Now this is a phenomenon that happens once every 100 years or so. That's where their story began. In the present day, Yui walks the streets of Tokyo searching for his twin brother. He bumps into 3 men on the way and takes them to a corner to get some information about his twin brother, Akira. The guys have no information to give him, so he uses his ice powers to freeze them into icicles. In the meantime, Akira finds out his stuffed piggy's belly has been torn open. Now there's stuffing everywhere. He cries out loud and asks Inugami to fix it for him. Inugami calls Mihai to help fix Akira's plush pig. Mihai gets it done for him and installs an AI program into the plushie. Akira gets very happy and thanks Mihai for helping him out. He then wonders where his twin brother could be at the moment. He recalls the good times he had with his twin brother, Yui. One time when they were younger, Akira and Yui took a stroll in the snowstorm. They were caught by their village elder, Hisame, and thrown back inside. So it happens that the village kept very close eyes on the boys, seeing as it was an abomination for boys to be born in the village. Yui and Akira never knew their parents and were forced to live behind doors and survive on their own. Inugami returns home that night with some beach sand. He tasks the kids with searching for a person's ashes from the bags of sand to find the ashes. Akira gets clumsy and falls on the bag. When it's time for supper, Akira cooks some cold noodles for the boys. As time passes, Akira keeps acting like a klutz as he keeps making messes all around the house. Eventually, Akira gets tired of being the problem and leaves the house. Now that he's homeless, Akira finds out he's broke and wanders the streets searching for a place to live. He finds his twin brother by chance on the streets and reunites with him. There's a flashback to their younger days when Yui and Akira promised each other to visit Tokyo one day and live good lives there. Akira follows her brother to an ice cream shop to get some crepe and ice cream. Yui rejects the crepe and gives it to Akira. Meanwhile, the boys get the day off as there's no case for them to solve. He asks Kabane what he thinks about Akira. Kabane tells him although Akira is a klutz, he still misses him. Inugami dismisses him and Kabane joins Shiki on the couch. There, they think about calling Akira back to the house, but Shiki would rather not. By nightfall, Yui takes Akira to a plain field in the forest. He asks his twin brother where he would like to live and Akira tells him he always wanted to stay in an ice castle. Just then, Yui uses his incredible ice powers and builds an ice castle. Akira gets very happy at the prettiness of the castle and takes some pictures of the house. Yui seizes his phone and locks him in a room in the castle. Then, he walks out and leaves the castle. Shiki and Kabane continue life without Akira. They try cooking up some beef stew but end up burning it to churns. Shiki Loki misses Akira but he refuses to show it. He decides to eat the burnt stew like that and sends Kabane to go buy his own dinner. After Kabane is gone, Shiki tries to do some dishes. He ends up getting angry and breaks one of the plates. Kabane returns shortly and tells Shiki they have to find Akira no matter what. They don't know where to start, but then Inugami checks Akira's social media. There, they find the picture of the ice castle he posted and race toward the castle. There, they find some reporters already outside and ready to interview the owner of the ice castle. Upon getting to the castle, Yui steps out of the house and attacks the reporters. Thankfully, Inugami stops him before he harms anyone. He sees the null stone sitting on Yui's chest and explains the use of the stone. While Kabane's life stone stops him from his thirst, Yui's null stone infuses his thirst for death. Yui begins his attack on the lot and immediately creates a snowstorm. In the meantime, Akira uses the AI program in his plushie piggy doll to check out his social media page. He asks his plushie doll why his brother would break his phone and act so cold toward him. The plushie doll tells Akira it noticed some weird signs in his vitals. He probably left some cold stuff compressed to his chest. Just then, Yui opens the room door and asks Akira to come down to check out his surprise for him. On getting down, Akira finds his friends, Shiki, Inugami, and Kabane all frozen solid by Yui's ice magic. After seeing his friends frozen solid, Akira's face lights up with disgust. He collapses before he can say anything, leading Yui to believe he is ill. Yui leaves the castle to go find herbs for his brother, leaving him with Inugami and the others. His AI plushie informs him that he sensed a strange vibe from Yui but couldn't figure out what it was. Akira suddenly recalls that Kabane is immortal. While he waits for him to defrost, he wonders if Inugami will be able to survive the extreme cold. Yui recalls his time in the snowy village after he was separated from his brother, Yui. As the only able-bodied male present, Yui was chosen to be the chief of the snowy village. His life spiraled downward as he was taught so many dark things that he had to keep hidden from his twin brother. A younger Akira asks his brother about his first day as chief in a flashback. Yui ignores him and tells him to leave the heavy lifting to him. Akira then gives his brother a flower to congratulate him on being named village chief. Yui smiles briefly before falling asleep that night. Still in the flashback, Yui is taken to the top of the mountains for the first time to see the Null Stone. When he arrives, he learns about the jealousy and secret hatred that is growing among the women of his tribe. Yui had little knowledge of female siblings because she grew up without one. As jealousy and envy became too much for him, he began to resent his village women. The flashback ends at that point and Yui returns to the ice castle with some salt and mint herbs for his brother. Akira collects the herb and keeps wondering how she will take him out before it's too late. Inari arrives outside the castle with Nobamaru to find and retrieve the Null Stone. Kabane awakens from his coma and regenerates his lost limbs at that precise moment. He talks about his interest in the Null Stone and Snowy Village after putting on his pants. Kabane swears to save Akira from his brother, even if it means fighting him with all his might. Akira is afraid of his brother's strength, so he pretends he doesn't need Kabane's assistance. He tells Kabane that he doesn't need his assistance and prefers to stay with his brother. His brother then returns from his outing with some more salt. This time, Akira abandons his previous team and decides to accompany his brother somewhere else. On his way out, he freezes his tears and bids Kabane farewell before leaving. Akira's AI doll calls on Kabane and tells him to sprinkle some of the salt on his friends so they can thaw faster. Kabane does just that and waits for his friends to come back to life. Inari finally appears and fools Kabane into assisting her in retrieving the Null Stone. Meanwhile, Akira and his twin are still looking for a new home in the forest. Akira reminds him of their most recent stroll. Akira is seen asking his brother to inform him of his pain when they were much younger. Yui, on the other hand, refused to share his pain with Akira because of his weakness and purity of heart. Akira protests, telling his brother that he had his first wet dream the night before. Yui notices this and is concerned that the women will use Akira's advancement to install him as a figurehead chief and banish him. He couldn't allow himself or his brother to be used in such a way. So Yui persuaded the entire village of 200 women to expel Akira for the benefit of the village. Fortunately, his plan succeeds, and Akira is expelled from the snowy village. Before leaving, Yui instructs Akira to seek out a man named Inugami in Tokyo. Yui returns to the village after he has left and overhears the women discussing the assassin they sent after Akira. He rushes up to Hisama, the village's female head, and confronts her. Isama kidnaps him and abandons him for dead. Yui, on the other hand, flees and rushes to the Null Stone. As Yui returns to reality, he discovers that Nobamaru is following them both. Meanwhile, Inari continues to stall Kabane until Inugami, who can now speak, tells Kabane to ignore her and pursue Akira and Yui. Kabane departs and begins following them both. Yui, on the other hand, encloses his brother in a cage and prepares to battle Nobamaru, who has fully transformed into his kitsune form and is ready to obtain the Null Stone. The fight for the Null Stone becomes very heated as Nobamaru goes all out to get it. At one point, Yui gets distracted and leaves an opening for Nobamaru. Nobamaru gets close enough to touch the stone but his hands freezes off due to the extreme cold. Yui catches his slacking off and throws some icicles toward him. Just as Nobai is about to get hit, Kabane arrives and destroys the icicle. Nobamaru updates Kabane on the current situation surrounding his fight with Yui and tells him about his new plan to take him down. Akira is seen struggling to free himself from the cage when he sees a light in the fog. Apparently, Nobamaru lit Kabane on fire just so he could get hot enough to melt Yui's ice. Seeing as his body could regenerate itself, he doesn't really have much to worry about getting burnt. This plan works after landing the first few hits on Yui. However, things change when Yui draws more of his life force and exchanges it for power from his Null Stone. Akira uses the water and the fog around him to form an ice ball big enough to break the cage he was in. Kabane, after realizing what was happening, asks Nobamaru to increase the temperature of the flame. Nobamaru fears he may burn out from overheating. Still, Kabane tells him to do it. Once his core temperature is increased, Kabane prepares for a final strike to end Yui once and for all. Just as he's about to land his fatal blow, Akira gets in the way and protects his brother. Kabane's body burns out from the heat and he crumbles into ashes with only his skull remaining. Nobamaru explains the situation to Akira as Kabane's skull begins to regenerate. When he's able to talk, Kabane tells Akira that his brother will die very soon if the null stone isn't removed quickly. Akira gets very emotional and removes the null stone from his brother. While he's at it, he gets his brother's memories. Apparently, after escaping the women, Yui got to the null stone and begged it to grant him the power to find his brother. He cries softly for his half-dead brother and tries to remove the stone. Kabane, who's already received half of his body, fuses his own life stone with Yui's null stone and pulls it out. Inari appears right at that moment and picks up the stone. Just then, Inugami shows up and tells her to drop it since the resulting stone still belongs to Kabane. To avoid unnecessary fights, Inari drops the stone and leaves. A few hours later, everyone gets back home. Akira makes sure to apologize to Kabane for his actions back in the castle. Kabane gets happy and rejoices with him. Later on, Yui wakes up and finds everyone by his side. Kabane shows Yui the new stone formed and asks if it could lead him to his parents. Yui and Inugami tell him the history of Kemono and the wars that led them to the point they're in. After the story, Inugami and Yui conclude that Kabane's mother must have been an important village chief who passed down the life stone to him while leaving him behind. So, to find her, they have to check all around Japan for clues. Elsewhere, Inari cooks up another plan to recover the life and null stone from Kabane's hands. She discusses her new plan with Nobamaru and tells him to go forward with it. In the meantime, Yui confesses his horrible crime to his brother. He claims he took them out of the snowy village to end their clan and find his brother. Still, Akira and the others forgive him and welcome him home. Yui smiles again for the first time and accepts his younger brother. Akira gets very happy and takes pictures. Later that night, Nobamaru meets up with Kon at the tree she stays at and assigns her a new mission. She is to get closer to Kabane and charm him into giving her his life stone. Akira and the boys approach Mihai and ask him to help repair his toy before he leaves on his vacation with Yui. Mihai helps them out and repairs it. After Akira's gone, Inugami and Kabane pack up to begin the search for his parents. While they're about to leave, Kon spies on them and joins them. She asks to tag along on their search and Inugami lets her follow them.